I was just trying to think if I've got anything new. Oh, I have actually. I watched a video on Bish Bash Bosh's channel where he did a dowel cutting jig thing.
Mm.
One of the Chinese sort of aluminium things with a carbide blade. And I've been looking for a solution for making my own dowels for years. I've seen the old dowel plates and stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to be as neat a solution as this. So I bought one. I used it yesterday actually to make some dowels for that project that I mentioned where I walked around the neighbourhood finding some junk. I thought, well, it would be a shame to use some dowels in it that haven't come from that wood, so I'll actually make my own dowels as well, so that even the joinery in it is from that wood that I found. Yeah, it works really well actually.
I've not watched that video, but I'll have to. Can you adjust the diameter of the dowel?
Yeah, it's got holes for different diameters, and you can go from 20 right down to I think about 8 mil.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And he showed a clever trick in it as well, where he's got this thing called a universal socket, I think it's called. I don't know if you know what it is, but it's like a big socket that you'd put on a wrench with loads of pins in.
Yes.
And you put it over the head and it adapts to whatever size it is. And he uses that to actually put the dowel into to drive into the dowel jig. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, no, that's clever.
So I bought one of those as well, and that did a great job. So yeah, well chuffed with that.
Oh, that's great, because I use a lot of dowels. When I go to do something, I always have the 6 and the 8 mil, and I need some 12 mil dowels. And then if you need them the next day, because you can't just walk into a DIY store and buy 12 mil dowels.
Yeah, but also we constantly create a healthy supply of scraps.
Yes.
You can turn those scraps into dowels.
Yeah.
And in seconds, because it does work really quickly as well. So
Really?
I just think that's a really neat solution.
That could have been your recommendation for this week.
Yeah, it could have been. Well, I've got a list of another 3, I think. So.
Oh, that's all right then. I think Bish Bash Boss had too many recommendations. He's now banned.
We
no
need
more.
to start charging him, I think. It's just such a great channel. Shall we address the elephant in the room then, as they say?
Yeah.
So we had a quick chat before hitting record, obviously, about where we see the podcast going. And I think constraints with, as always, these things come down to time and money, don't they? And
I mean, we was never in it for the money, but at the same time, it can't be costing us money to do, I guess.
yeah, this is it. It's always been a passion project, and it still is a passion project, but there comes a time when it's just more difficult.
Well, a lot's changed since we started, hasn't it? You've had a baby. I've moved house again, and I've had 17 new table saws.
Built 15 new sheds.
Yeah, I mean, life moves pretty quick.
Yeah, and also, obviously, quite a long time ago now, we had a series of sponsorships on the podcast that were brilliant because it made everything viable, didn't it?
Yeah.
Financially. Pretty much all of the money that we take from the podcast comes from our very generous patrons who support the channel, and also some PayPal donations, which we've received quite a few of. And we're hugely appreciative of that because obviously it's meant that we could carry on.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, everyone. I just don't think you can earn any money off podcasts unless you have millions of views.
Well, this is the other thing. I think if you're putting out a podcast elsewhere in the world, particularly in America, you can monetize it, and they put in adverts into the show.
Oh, really?
We can't do that here.
Oh.
In the UK, I mean, how many years have podcasts been a thing, and we still can't do that in the UK? So,
but I don't think we're saying we're walking away because we enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
We just cannot. Our plan was to put one up every fortnight, and we've not been doing that, have we, this year? Or probably for more than 6 months now. And we get lots of messages of people asking if we're okay, and I guess everyone thinks that we've fallen out.
We hate each other. We're just so sick of each other now. There is another aspect to it, in all seriousness, that when me and Matt kind of meet up and talk, we've got so much to talk about, but only a small proportion of what we talk about feels podcast worthy. You know, we probably spend 4 hours, maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 hours recording a couple of podcasts, and only about 20% of that stuff is actually podcast worthy.
We do waffle a lot, and a lot of it is moaning about running your own business, which I'm sure people would find interesting, but at the same time, we don't want to be putting that out there, even though I'm sure there's some good rants in there.
And also, we've done, 40 episodes, have we, I think? or thereabouts.
Have we really?
I think so, and I feel like a lot of the stuff we've talked about, we've already talked about multiple times in the past. So it's also like, how much value are people getting from this? Do they really just want to hear about what we've been up to? A lot of people seem to enjoy the informal chit chat that we have, which is great, and we could do that for hours. But perhaps that has a limited reach. There's also like, how many times can people listen to us moaning about timber merchants, tradespeople, and building merchants?
Yeah. Yeah. We like other things but woodworking as well, don't we? And we end up talking about other stuff. I feel where it all went wrong is we peaked when you did that thumbnail of you riding a camel. And that was just such a high that it's all been downhill from there, and you're just never going to get that back.
There have been some really good highlights, like the Christmas quiz, which was a shambles.
That was a shambles. We had not thought that through.
Also, I seem to remember those unpopular opinions episodes being just really enjoyable because we could just moan and whinge about things.
Yeah, that is definitely our thing.
But like Matt said, this isn't like a goodbye that you're never going to hear from us again. It's just we're not going to be putting out episodes regularly. I mean, most people have probably cottoned onto that fact anyway. I think it's going to be more of a as and when we have stuff that we feel like, we can talk about that's going to be interesting to people. And also, obviously, when we've got time to put it together. So it's not a goodbye. It's just a hiatus type thing.
Kind of what we've been doing for the last few months. We've been in denial, haven't we?
I think so.
Not acknowledged it. It was always ambition to do it every fortnight, but there's just absolutely no way, and it's better to come out and be honest that that's not what we can do, because people are generously supporting us, giving us money to do that, and we're not doing it.
Because also, I think we both care about quality, and if we're just meeting up every couple of weeks, having a rant about the same things, it doesn't feel like we're putting out the best possible thing that we could be. So we just want to put out something that we feel is going to be entertaining and enjoyable to people and add some value in some way, rather than chit chat, which is the stuff that we do a lot of.
The trouble is our lives are just too repetitive. It's like, what have you done this week, Matt? I went in my workshop. What do you do, Keith? Oh, I went in my workshop. We've got to actually go out and do things, and then we can talk about them. Have you thought about anything else interesting to say?
I wouldn't necessarily say interesting, but I have thought of one thing, which is that I got some of those new Mirka sanding discs called Mirka Ultimax Ligno, which I think I understand as being the first disc that Mirka have designed specifically for wood. And my complaint with the Mirka sanding discs, even though they seem really well regarded, is that I'm sure they're brilliant for things like car bodies or metal panels or whatever they're used for in massive industrial quantities, but I don't think they've ever held up that well on wood.
Are these the mesh ones?
They are partially mesh, partially they've got like a bow tie grit pattern on them. I can't remember where I heard about them originally, but I thought I need to try these out and compare them with the discs that I favour at the moment, which are the 3M.
Are they the purple ones? 3M
The purple ones, yeah.
Yeah. I like the trend purple ones.
So I've never tried those. 3M Extract is the name, sorry.
Yeah. I think I liked those as well, but I think the trend ones were slightly cheaper, and you could get them from Amazon.
Right.
Which I found when I was using the 3M, I had to buy them from, was it like RS online? I had to get them from somewhere specialist. Yeah. Which is always a pain if you can't make up a minimum order or you have to pay for shipping. I want to get things that I can get from Toolstation or Screwfix or from Amazon.
Yeah. So the experience I've had with those 3M Extract discs, it's been a bit of a weird one really, because the first box I had, they were incredible. And then I did an advert for them on Instagram and they sent me another box. That box doesn't seem to be as good to me. Oh. Which seems really weird, and maybe I'm imagining it, but I swear the first box of discs I had just lasted incredibly well. So I thought, right, I need to do just for my own sort of sanity, I need to do a comparison between these 3M extract discs and these new Merca ones to see if the Merca ones are as good or whatever. And it just so happens that recently I'd spray painted a project on top of my workbench top, so the whole workbench was covered in spray paint and it needed to be refinished. So I put a line of tape down the centre. I thought I'd do half with the Merca disc, half with the 3M extract disc. And I was underwhelmed by the Merca, to be honest. It's a really good disc, but it didn't seem to last quite as well as that 3M extract one still, even though I still don't think that 3M extract disc is as good as the ones I had before. By the sounds of things, I probably need to try out these trend ones as well.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things you learn with woodworking, that some things are a false economy, and you can definitely buy cheaper sanding discs, but they don't last as long. The backing goes and they fly across the room, and it actually doesn't end up any more expensive to buy the good ones because they last longer.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think we disagree on screws. You still use cheap screws.
Yeah, I still buy cheap screws, yeah.
And I've been so frustrated with cheap screws that, like, splitting wood and snapping and rounding off the heads.
Yeah.
But you don't seem to. Maybe I'm too heavy-handed with my my drivers.
Maybe you're just that powerful.
Yeah, that's
you don't
that's
know
probably
your own
it. But yeah, I don't buy the cheap. I'm not saying I buy Spax. Actually, I'm not a fan of Spax screws.
I remember you saying, yeah. Is it the Risa or something that you like?
Yeah, I like the Risa ones, but you can't always get them everywhere. But just the kind of mid-brand ones from any of the big stores, I don't mind. Just not the cheap ones. But drill bits, I think, is another one. It's worth a little extra.
Yeah, I've got some by Dart, I think they're called. I really rate those. But the thing is, because you're constantly breaking the smallest bits, you kind of 1, 2, 3 millimeter. I do buy the cheap ones of those because I just feel like I break them that frequently that I might as well just buy a bulk pack of the smaller ones.
Is it the Silver Line or something? I've forgotten the tool name.
I'm not sure what the brand that I buy are.
These are in blue packaging, but you can buy them off Amazon and like maybe it's £2 for 10 2mm bits. I don't know if it's that anymore because I bought those years ago, and you don't mind snapping one when they're pennies each.
Exactly, yeah. Have you ever tried sharpening drill bits?
No.
I've done it with bigger drill bits because it's kind of easier. You can kind of see what you're doing, but with smaller drill bits, you just have to throw them away, I think, when they're blunt. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that it's worth the extra money on is Forstner bits.
Yes.
Because they're expensive. So when I first started, I was buying the cheap ones off Amazon for £4, and in a drill press, I'd lower it onto the bit of the wood, and it's almost burnishing the bit of the wood and not cutting it at all.
Yeah.
And then I bought one of those. I think it's the Fish brand ones. They're the most expensive one, and I cut myself taking it out the box, and that's just beautiful. But now I do tend to buy the Bosch ones, but I think any of the branded ones, they just cut beautifully.
Yeah.
And I think that's worth the extra money.
Also, there's different types of Forstner bits. So, for example, like some of them work really well in MDF and others don't.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you drill through like the face of MDF, they just clog up the whole time. So it's like drill, unclog, because obviously the MDF comes off in layers.
Yeah.
Really annoying.
It always fascinates me when I see Peter do his hinge jig and he has the drill bit fully submerged and he takes his hand and clears the chippings.
Right.
And I think it's sped up or something, so it looks so dangerous. But clearly the head is fully submerged in the wood, so there's nothing dangerous whatsoever. But I always think I must get so many comments about that.
Just going back to sanding discs, because I had a thought then, because obviously you mentioned the trend ones and I mentioned the 3M extract. They're both purple in colour, so I wondered if they were the same materials, but looking at it, the trend ones are aluminium oxide and the 3M ones are ceramic.
Oh.
Don't know whether that makes a difference, but yeah, I think I need to get a box of those trend ones to try out.
Yeah, I think the aluminium oxide is the cheap stuff.
I don't know about you, but I'm just constantly looking for ways of making sanding less troublesome.
And you've been using the Merca for years now, haven't you?
Yes, yeah. Oh, what, the discs or the sander? Sorry,
The sander.
the sander. Yeah, yeah. I love the sander. I still absolutely love it.
Oh, that's good.
It's just looking for the holy grail of discs.
No, I've been using the Bosch battery one, which I like not having the cord now, and I'm I've got is pretty much battery. But I say I had the problem with my Deeros, and then it's weird. I had a problem with a camera, and as soon as there's a problem with it, that's it. I don't want to use it anymore. I've lost complete confidence in it.
Lost faith in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to recommendations? Like I mentioned earlier, we tend to call out the same channels again and again and again, so I'm not going to do that this time. There's a channel called Mike Krabal, Krabal. He built his own camper from wood. You kind of see the thumbnail and you think, surely not. But no, he has. In fact, he's done multiple of them. And it's really interesting to see how he constructed it, how he made it weatherproof. It looks quite a cool thing as well. I think I remember him saying in the video that he was struggling a bit with the colour scheme and picking a colour that he thought would look good. But actually, I think he's done a great job because it's primarily still wood, but it's got kind of like a flash of brown colour to it as well. It looks like a retro kind of cool thing in my opinion. It's just an enjoyable project.
I know that it's something you've always wanted to do, a camper or caravan, and it's the space that's limiting.
Yeah, well, I was always thinking along the lines of actually ripping out and, doing the inside, but this is actually from scratch. He's actually built the camper, so it's just
that's
impressive.
Another level.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
like Andy Rawls, who's in Texas, and he had the Airstream, but because he's a furniture maker, he did the same, ripped it all out and did it. But it was one of those, I think he totally underestimated the size of the project because these Airstreams are not the most watertight thing, and he spent a long time, years on it. But it's certainly impressive it's done. So this is a channel I came across because I wanted to make some garden obelisks a few months ago, and I just couldn't get my head around all the compound angles. So I looked up some videos and I came across Small Barn Workshop. I don't know if it seems like kind of one of the small channels you'd come across and recommend. He had a great video about the garden obelisk, but then he seems to have had quite a lot of workspaces, and one of his workshops looks like he was just in a loft of his house, of this tiny little space. But actually, a few of his latest videos have been about the new Evolution table saw.
Okay.
So I hadn't actually realised that he had done those on those, so I'm going to have to watch those because, he's in a nice workshop now, but he's definitely used smaller spaces in the past, and I always think it's great watching people do interesting stuff when they've got limitations of small spaces.
That sounds cool. I'll check it out. Yeah, I remember when you did the obelisk, you pretty much kind of laid it out on a piece of paper, didn't you? And kind of like you chose the angles you wanted, and that's such a simple way of doing it that makes so much sense. But I wouldn't have thought of that. It's almost like my method is the most complicated it could be, which is to actually draw up a model in SketchUp, which isn't complicated for me now because I've done it a bunch of times. But it just your way of doing it just struck me as like the perfect way to do it for somebody who doesn't want to mess about with software or maths or anything like that.
Well, I might have got the idea from Small Barn Workshop, but
Okay.
I can't remember now. It was definitely a few months ago. But I was very intimidated by to make a triangle, the angles aren't complicated, but then the triangle's got to lean in the other way, so there's another angle, and so it's setting up a compound angle on the microscope. And I thought I can work all that out, but where I'm going to get confused is when I lay it out, because all the angles will look the same, and which way round's it got to go, and just screw it together and then just trim the excess off. It's some things when you're making fine furniture, you need to do it properly, but when it's something that's going to be shoved in the ground in a garden, you can get away with a bit more doing it simply.
But also you can immediately see visually what it's going to look like, which I think is the strength of it, because obviously you can do that with 3D software as well, but sometimes I feel like it doesn't give a true to life kind of perspective. You
Yeah.
kind of have to angle the camera in the software to see what it looks like from different angles to actually get an impression of what it actually looks like visually, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, being able to lay things out is always great, because I'm sure we've both done it. You've got an idea that it's going to be this big, and then you actually lay it out and go, oh no, that's far too big, or the angle's wrong, or too small.
Yeah.
The amount of times you buy things online and you get the tape measure and go, oh, it's going to be that big, but what it looks like in our tape measure and then what actually a thing is in real life feels completely different. Even though it is that dimension, you go, oh no, that's way smaller than what I needed.
Yeah.
Now I can see it. You can't buy things in shops a lot of the time now. It's only online. Like the sanding discs. Where would you actually go to buy 3M sanding discs?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I cancelled my Amazon subscription about 6 months ago because I just got fed up with the amount of no brand products that kind of you get every time you search for anything that are pretty much overpriced. I've got to say, some of the prices on there are horrendous for the stuff that you get in return. And I just thought, why am I paying Prime if I'm not really using it that much? And I've stopped buying from them. So I've kind of made more of an effort to go out to shops at the weekend and buy things, but it is such hard work to find anything that you need in shops.
Yeah. I'm the same. We've got a great little shop in town. I wanted one of those three-way plug things, you know, the square bits that go into a socket. The cheapest ones on Amazon were £6. I'm like, are they really £6? The shop in town has them for £2.50. And it's just that someone has got them for £6 on Amazon and then everyone else has matched that price.
Yeah.
But it's okay for those kind of domestic things, but specialist stuff like good quality wood screws, you can go to Toolstation Screwfix, but the couple of local DIY stores to me only sell like the cheap stuff. And they're quite expensive.
So to give another specific example, I wanted a nail brush recently. You know, the things that you scrub your nails with to get them clean. I wanted a wooden one with just a wooden one with bristles. That was my requirement. So I'm looking on Amazon now. $7.99, $6.49, $7.99, and I got one in a bargain shop in a local village for 59p, and it looks just like the ones in the picture.
Yeah, we should go into the nail brush business.
I always feel like the postage price is kind of wrapped up in that online price that you see. And why am I paying postage and paying Prime for postage? I'm paying postage twice. I just don't. Amazon just isn't sitting right with me at the moment. I just don't want to spend any money there at all.
No, I think they used to be cheap, and now that everyone uses them, they've gone, oh, no one checks anymore. They just assume we're the cheapest.
Yeah.
But I mean, that example you've just given and the plug I've given, it's a huge markup.
Yeah.
And the minimum delivery, that's my new annoyance as well on things like Screwfix and Toolstation to get free delivery. And Wix, it keeps creeping up and creeping up.
Well, I now have to do that with Amazon. So, like I say, I try not to buy from them. But on the odd occasion, when I do need to buy from them for whatever reason, I have to spend over £25 to get free delivery now.
So you can't need anything desperately, can you? Just got to keep adding bits to your basket until you've got enough.
I've probably shot myself in the foot with it, but the thing is, that's how they get you, isn't it? These big companies.
Yeah. Well, even there, I don't know where you probably don't see it now. They've got the video thing that's included in the Prime, and now that's full of adverts.
Yeah,
so you're paying for the
shocking.
video, and
I mean, I never watched Amazon Prime Video anyway. There was never anything on there that appealed to me. But yeah, there's a guy called Lewis Rossman on YouTube who, I think he might have been the person that convinced me actually to stop buying things on Amazon. He did this review of like an electrical component thing that he regularly uses that clearly doesn't work and is actually dangerous. But because it's got really good reviews on Amazon, everyone still continues to buy it. And then he bought the same thing from like Home Depot or whatever for like a fifth of the price, and it works absolutely fine. It's just, madness.
Yeah, I've been looking at the diesel heaters, and it just scares me to buy them off Amazon because you can't trust the reviews. Because the amount of times I bought something on Amazon and then they email you going, if you review it, we'll give you some money back or something. So how can you trust anything? And they pay for reviews. But I can't find any other reliable websites to get them from either that aren't insanely expensive.
Yeah. Just tend to buy things on eBay. I often find the same things on eBay that are on Amazon, and they're usually cheaper. You have to pay a delivery fee as well sometimes, but like I bought a video green screen recently, like a pull-out green screen, so that I could do clever video things. I thought that would be fun. I'm sure it was like 100 quid on Amazon. I found it for 60 quid on eBay.
Yeah. Well, this is some good consumer advice from Workshop Banter.